Hey guys, welcome back to another week of Looking Beyond the Dividend. This week we're going to travel to Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and we're going to look at one of the two real estate investment trusts that my wife and I both hold in our portfolio, and that's Northwest Healthcare. As its name suggests, Northwest holds properties that specifically rent out to healthcare organizations, and I'll get into the details of all the different types of healthcare organizations they serve. But over the last little while, they've been really hit hard with the high interest rates, as of course most real estate investment trusts hold debt. And with rising rates, that's really affected Northwest quite heavily. There's a lot of talk and a lot of discussion going on right now about the safety of this company, if you will. But at the same time, they've got a lot of good things going for them. So I'm going to provide as unbiased an opinion as I can. Of course, take that for what it's worth, as I do hold a fair stake in this company. But I want to show kind of what it has to offer as well as what it's up against over the next few minutes that we're together. Stick around. So let's start with what's good about this company. As when we got into this about 2 or 2.5 years ago, there was a lot to be excited about. When we look at nowadays the talk of recession, are we going into a recession? Are we already in a recession? What's going to happen about a recession? All those sorts of things. There's a couple of REITs that we got into, this one, of course, as well as Slate Grocery, because our opinion was, regardless of what the market is like, people are always going to have to seek out healthcare, and they're also going to have to seek out groceries. And Slate Grocery, which I may talk about in another video, is a real estate investment trust that holds leases for grocery stores. Northwest holds leases for healthcare facilities, as I expressed earlier. So, just a couple of quick pointers here. They hold healthcare facilities in Canada, the United States, Brazil, Germany, the Netherlands, the United Kingdom, Australia, and New Zealand. So, they are very, very geographically dispersed. Within all of their holdings, as you can see, actually, it's not on the screen right now. However, within all of their holdings, 61% of the leases that they hold are to hospitals and healthcare facilities. 37% of the leases are to medical office buildings, and 2% of the leases are to life sciences, research, and education. So on the screen there, you'll see as well, they hold $10.9 billion in assets. They hold over 233 properties with over 2,100 tenants. And what's really important for any real estate investment trust really are these last two items that I'm going to talk about. They currently hold a 97% occupancy level, which means those are monthly paying companies or hospitals, etc., that are in those locations. And the average lease hold on those by those companies is 14 years. So one of the things that real estate investment trusts we really want to have is consistency of those monthly payers, which in turn allows us to get paid out in dividends every month. So there's a lot of really, really good things here with this real estate investment trust, which of course I just went over. They're geographically spread out around the world in many countries. Hospitals, medical buildings, all those different forms of healthcare aren't going away anytime quick. They have very, very high occupancy, and they have really long leases by those. And if we look at any analysts' predictions, the stock currently is trading anywhere from 13%. Some have even said up to 30% below their fair value. The earnings are suggested, or excuse me, the earnings are forecast to grow by almost 50% per year for the coming years. And they currently hold a 9.5% dividend yield based on their actual current price, which is just over $8. I believe 8.30 or 8.35. So as I said, great outlook on this company as far as their earnings and their potential. But there are a few things on the negative side, and that's something we need to talk about. We're going to talk about that next. Okay, so what's so bad about this company? Well, as with most real estate investment trusts, Northwest Healthcare carries debt. And the best that I can see is that I'm reading a number of different forums. Forums are where you always get the real crazy comments, but deep within those crazy comments, there is a certain bit of truth to them as well, along with a lot of fluff, mind you. But it appears as though there's been some fairly poor decisions that have been made over the last couple of years, potentially. One of them being, and I just read a statement from the company in the last couple of days. They've put out some debentures, basically raising $75 million, and the company is using the $75 million proceeds that they get from that to pay off their short term, some of their short term debt that has a very, very high interest rate. And that's where a lot of people have made comments about this being very poorly managed company. And I won't go that far to say that, but it is something that makes you kind of question, why would they not have locked some of that debt in at a better rate? The numbers I've seen floating around are that they paid somewhere in the 9% range on their debt. And when I look at some of the analysts and the negative comments, or I guess not negative comments, but the analysts and some of the comments that they make about the company and as why it may not be a solid investment, one of the glaring things is that their debt is not well covered by the operating cash flow. And that's kind of a sad thing to say when you look at all the positives I just spoke about. Their debt is actually costing them more than that cash flow that they have coming in. And that's kind of concerning. It's definitely concerning. As I said, it's a 9.5% dividend yield right now. But again, a number of people are questioning how long until that dividend gets cut. And if it does get cut, then what happens? To the shareholders like me, are we still interested in holding this company? As I said, this is not, most real estate investment trusts are not investments, at least for me, that I go into thinking that my capital is going to really appreciate and do very, very well for me. It is more of an income generator that we get those guaranteed monthly payments because we know all of those companies are paying their rent, and the real estate investment trust in turn is then paying that out to the shareholders via dividends. So if the dividend gets cut, we then basically take a bit of a pay cut in our monthly payments. And historically, in my opinion, what I've seen is when dividends get cut, a lot of people also decide this is not the stock I want to stay in. And that negatively then affects your capital investment as well. So there is a little bit of risk here. Now, putting out that $75 million worth of debentures apparently is going to take care of some of that short-term debt. So might that resolve this issue? Well, we don't know. At the same time, the profit margins for the company, again, analysts are noting profit margins are lower than they were last year. Well, of course, that makes sense based on what I had just explained. But also their price to earnings ratio is pretty high compared to their peers in the industry. And their price to earnings ratio right now is 34.8 times, when most of their competitors are half that, around 17 to 20 times. So again, some negatives there to keep an eye on. But again, my stance and my wife's stance, this is healthcare. Healthcare is not going to go away. This stock might go through some tougher times even than it is in right now, but I'm not fearful that this is going to go away, because those facilities that are leasing these locations, they're not going away. So you guys know the drill. This has not been investment advice. This has just been me telling you about a stock that my wife and I are in, going through a little bit of difficult time right now, but we're hopeful that it'll come out the other side successful. Want to thank you guys for sticking around. And as I always ask, if you have enjoyed this video or any of the videos, I would please ask you to consider subscribing to the channel and hit that like button. Really appreciate you hanging out. And until next time, take care. We'll talk to you soon.